They retain fragmented, distorted versions of their minds, with only enough memories of their living personalities remaining to feel their undead anger and jealousy of those who yet live. Oh, and welcome back to Monster Hunter D&D / Pathfinder. Today we're going to be talking about the Mummy and some possible drops that the Mummy could give you when your D&D or Pathfinder party kills them. So, let's talk about the different things that a Mummy could drop. So, the things that come to mind when I think of me is Mummy Dust. So that's going to be one thing. Another thing would be the Mummy Wraps, because mummies are known for being these creatures that are wrapped up in, sometimes we think of it as toilet paper, but it's actually like linen or other sturdy materials. Now, in the mummification process, they often use herbs and other oils to preserve the body. So why don't we put down like ancient ichor? Now, people can say ichor or ichor. Kind of depends on where you come from, so both are correct. I say ichor because I kind of prefer the way it sounds. I'm going to put down something that I use that all my undead, because undead are destroyed, they aren't killed. Necromantic ash. So this is just kind of like the remnants of any undead. They kind of disappear and their bodies are destroyed. This kind of prevents, like, this gives a lore reason why you just can't use the same zombie over and over again for a create undead spell. You need to constantly go find new bodies because it turns to ash. Because of that, on that note, onyx gems. So mummies are created with the create undead spell, which requires a 50 gold piece gem for every hit dice possessed. Mummies usually have 6 hit dice, so that's going to be 6 50 gold piece gems or 300 gold pieces. Now, there's other options such as nothing, and you could get multiple. So we're going to put roll twice more. So now that we have all the different possibilities, let's put this on the charts. We're going to use a 2x4 chart. Reason why I like the 2x4 chart is because it gives us a nice bell curve of possibilities. So with unlikely, very likely, and unlikely again. So that way we can kind of spread out and have some idea of what we are going to have our party members find. So that's going to give us the possibilities of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you notice we have 7 possibilities and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possibilities. Now, I don't want my party members to be disappointed, so nothing will be at a 2. There's only going to be a 1 in 16 chance for this. 1 in 16 chance breaks down to about 7%. 7% chance of them to get nothing. And then roll twice more, obviously at the top. Okay, so now we have to assign values to these. So I think Mummy Dust is kind of be very common. Ancient Ichor is probably going to be the most valuable. So we want to put this at 5. Or not at 5 because 5 is going to be the most common. So I'm actually going to put Onyx Gem at the middle, because ultimately, unless you have a necromancer in the party, this is just going to be some gold that they add to their inventory, something to buy something else. So players are always going to be happy with more money because then they can go through and buy what they want or what they need. All right, so let's just cross off these things as we mark them down. In addition, we're going to go about this. So Onyx gems, there should be some amount of what they can get. So they need at least 50%, a 50 gold piece gem, all the way up to 300. Maybe it could be more. So why don't we say it's 25 GP times 1 die 6. So we can say like half of the Onyx gem was consumed in this, or some amount of the Onyx gem was consumed, and this is what's left over after the spell was broken because the mummy was destroyed. So this can give them up to 150 gold pieces worth of Onyx gems. Alright, so mummy dust and mummy wraps. So these can go in 4 and 5. They have the same possibility. For mummy wraps, I think there should be 2 versions. We can have tattered and fine. So the tattered will be 10 GP per pound. And then the fine will be 100 GP per pound. And how many pounds do they find? Let's say it's another 2 die 4 pounds. 2 die 4 pounds. Oh, yeah. Now the mummy dust, we'll say this is, I don't think there's a way to separate it out, so we'll just say it is 2 die 4 ounce vials. So the reason I put ounce vials is because, so you guys can't see that, but the reason I put ounce vials is ounces are kind of what potions are in. So when you're drinking a potion, it's an ounce vial. So after they beat the mummy, if they have any potions that have been emptied, they can use those to put the ash in, or the dust in. All right. And then we have ancient ichor and necromantic ash. Necro ash. So, and mummy dust, I usually run it 100 GP per vial. Now, why am I giving all these things value? We're going to find that out in a moment. Like, why have monster drops if we're not going to use them? So, necromantic ash, 2 die 4 vials. 1 GP per vial. Vial. I spelled the wrong vial. And then ancient ichor. So again, we're going to measure it in vials. 2 die 4 vials. And ancient ichor, a little bit more difficult to contain. So we can probably put it at 150 GP per vial. All right. So let's talk about what these different things do. So you guys got that? Let's go to the next page. So Necro Ash. It's a low thing that you can get from, in my campaigns, mostly any undead that dies. So this can be used in necromancy spells. Maybe 10 GP worth can be used to increase the DC. To increase a necromancy spell DC. A necro spell difficulty class. That's generally what I use it for. If you're using it to make maybe some potions, necromancy potions. So if in your campaign cure spells are necromancy spells, then you would need 25 gold pieces worth of necro ash to make that. That could be the magical component needed for the player to make that magical item. A lot of times you see in the campaign that if you want to make something, it requires some amount of gold worth of materials, and you don't ever know what that is. So here, you can use necro ash from your undead for necromancy spells. And because you can only get vials worth of gold piece, it's not a good one, so it's going to encourage finding other more intense things. For example, like mummy wraps. Now, mummy wraps, they can be used for magical weapons, magical armor. So it's going to be like the linking between the straps on full plate, the wrapping around the hilt of a sword. Now, mummies have damage reduction. At least old mummies do. They can't get rid of damage reduction in newer editions of Pathfinder and D&D. But they're actually very hard to deal damage to. So mummy wraps, if used on a magical item or a magical armor, maybe it's the requirement for damage reduction on armor. A more symbolic approach, because mummies have the despair ability, which literally paralyzes people who look upon it. Maybe we can see this more as giving a whole person effect. So maybe you need mummy wraps to make a wand of whole person, or a wand of stone skin, because they have good damage reduction. They have the despair effect. Let's go to the mummy dust. So the mummy dust, this could be used for poisons because it could be dissolved into a liquid. Now, if I were to make a poison with mummy dust, I would say it'd deal either con or charisma damage. Constitution. I apologize for my spelling. I'm very bad at it. Con or charisma damage. Now I know they also get rid of a lot of damage to your stats in the newer editions. Maybe bring it back. The reason why I say con and charisma is because in 3.5 D&D and Pathfinder 1st edition D&D, that's what the Mummy Rock Curse attacked. It attacked your charisma, it attacked your constitution, turning your lungs to dust, making you forget who you are. So, poisons, using this. You could also fold mummy dust into steel. Put it in weapon steel. Look, kind of like putting carbon into steel, into iron. to make it harder, and now that's going to give it magical properties. If you dust it with the sword and then temper it, that's going to allow maybe more of the whole person effect. Maybe it does negative energy damage. But I think Mummy Dust could be used in the changing of steel. Now let's look at that Ancient Ichor. So that can be used any of these things. Potion. So honestly, it could be any of the above. Maybe you lubricate a sword with it. Maybe it increases the DC for necromantic spell effects. That's kind of why I put it at the most expensive per vial, because I feel this would be the most flexible for use, because it's really easy to apply to something. And then as for the onyx gems, again, this is good value. It's good value. It can be used for create undone spells, animate dead spells, create greater undead spells. That's what they're used for, aside from selling. So, now that we've kind of talked about what you can use these types of things for, let's go through and actually make a weapon or an item with these. So, let's take that off. Now, mummies are known for being clerics. You can have the mummy pharaoh, which has some levels in cleric. So let's think about something that a cleric could have. So they could, in Pathfinder, they wear medium armor. So maybe we have something that gives a medium armor effect, made with the straps of a mummy. Maybe we want to give it a mace. Something that can invoke the powers of a mummy. So I think I'm going to really work with that despair ability, because it acts very much like a hold person spell, and hold person is a 2nd level spell, so it's going to be pretty accessible. Oh, I got my R and I switched. So mummies are usually have 6 hit dice, so that would put it at the ability of like a 3rd level spell. So we're going to put spell level as 3. Caster level is obviously 6. And I'm going to have this have a command word. So that's going to be times 1800 for a command word. And then how many times do we want to use it per day? How about twice per day, or once per day? I feel like twice per day. We'll do once per day. We're going to make this a nice, good item once per day. So we're going to multiply that by 1.5. So this ability, once I find my calculator, it's going to cost us, so 18 times 36, and that's going to be 1. So this ability, to be able to use the paralyzing effect of a hold person, is going to cost us 6,480 gold pieces to put onto something. Okay, so now do we want to put this on armor or weapon? Let's put it on armor. So a breastplate costs us 200 gold pieces. Oops. It needs to be masterwork, so it's going to be plus 150 gold pieces. And this ability is going to cost that. We already calculated it out. So what would be a good name for this? How about the Pharaohs mantle? And it's going to be something of Egyptian style. Lots of gold, maybe a scarab. You want to be conscientious about how you're designing it. You don't want to appropriate anyone's culture. But and then once per day, you can yell out the command word. So what's a good command word for something like this? How about something epic, something invoking the power of the Pharaoh? How about we yell out, you activate it by yelling out, freeze before me, mortals. I am chosen by the gods. So, activating phrase, freeze before me, mortals. I am chosen by the gods. And that will run you a total of 6,830 gold pieces, and it's going to do a whole person effect. Well, it's going to copy the despair ability, which on a save of, well, so 13 plus charisma modifier. They will be paralyzed for a die 4 rounds. Will negates. It's a fear effect. All right. So I hope you found this interesting. I will show you guys once again what our chart is. So once again, nothing, necro ash, mummy wraps, onyx gems, mummy dust, ancient ichor, and then you roll again. This can be changed. Maybe they're actually going to seek out to make something for a hold person wand or something like that. So maybe you give them all of it. Maybe you increase the number. But I hope you enjoy the video. I hope you find this useful, and I hope you add it to your game to add a little bit more of a monster hunter quality to your game, so that they're not just killing monsters for XP, but they're questing for items to make something for themselves or something to give to wizards that they need for their research. So if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, and you can also leave a comment about a monster that you want me to create a random drop chart for in the future, and I'll even make an item that goes along with those drops. So thanks, I'll see you next time.